Today we have a very special guest with us. We have Michael Webster, who's a Chief Cloud Architect from Insentra here. So Michael's going to take you through how to unlock some opportunities with Azure. So at the moment, we will then hand over to Michael. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm here today to talk about unlocking opportunities with Azure. So a little bit about who I am. I am Insentra's Chief Cloud Architect. I have a 25-year Microsoft history. I have deployed Azure for multiple years. We were involved with one of the customers that did the rapid deployment project in Microsoft for Azure Australia, which means I assisted one of the first 4 customers into Azure Australia, have deployed solutions all around the world, have the pleasure in my job of traveling the world. So I have lots of experience, and I want to share what I've learned today with yourselves. So firstly, who is Insentra? So Insentra, we are a Microsoft Gold partner. We have a very unique business model. So we are a channel-only services provider. So as the slide says, we do everything 100% transacted to a customer through a partner such as yourselves. We offer a series of professional and managed services across Microsoft, Citrix, Semantic, Veritas, archive migrations. So quite a broad depth. As it says, we believe all business relationships start with trust. So we're 100% channel focused, and everything we do through you to your customers. So what do we do and what do we offer? So firstly, we set Insentra up to solve some problems that we're seeing in the market. So the founders used to run work for a large system integrator and discovered a series of problems when they were running that business and set up Insentra to solve those problems. So the first one is pre-sales. So we provide to yourselves pre-sales at no cost. So if you see an opportunity, you can come back to Dicker, contact your Dicker rep. Your Dicker rep will engage us, and we will work with you through the pre-sales process to assist in winning the project or the opportunity with yourselves. We never, ever transact directly. We are 100% channel. We don't sell competing products. We are a service. So if the solution requires the selling of software and hardware, that is yours. We don't touch that. We will assist you in sizing and scoping, but we are not here to sell products. That is not our space. We are a services company. While we're engaged, because we understand the trust that you are giving us, if we find other opportunities while talking with the customer that may be not related to what we're doing, but say they run VMware with a VMware environment, we would bring that back to you and advise you that there is an additional opportunity for you to engage with that customer. Again, always happy to assist you with the pre-sales, but if that's something you want to run with yourself, then you're welcome to do that. So we try to reward the trust you put in us by finding other opportunities to grow your market share with that customer. We engage in a model that will augment your abilities. So depending on your current skill sets, that can happen in a variety of ways. So we're here to talk about Azure today. Let's just say that you don't have much Azure experiences, but you have a large Microsoft skill set. So we can come and engage with you to deliver just the Azure services. In that scenario, alternatively, you might have a scenario where you have a certain amount of depth, but you need a much deeper level of engagement and understanding, and we can engage in that space. We can work and deliver technologies for you that you don't deliver. So let's say a Citrix opportunity comes across your desk, you don't have Citrix skills, you can engage us in that Citrix role to augment your abilities in that way. So we mix and match to meet your requirements. We can either be the extra bench for you, the extra resources you require. We could be the delivery arm or for a technology, or we could augment your abilities based on what's happening. In the perfect world, you've got more work than you can actually deliver, and you can get us involved to assist you to deliver those for the customer. We also offer managed services across all of the services that we do. Again, we integrate with what you do. If you already own offer a managed service, you will not hear us mention our managed service. We will promote your managed service when talking to the customer. However, if you don't have a managed service, so let's say you are an MSP, but you don't do Azure or you don't do Citrix, we could offer our services, and our services can be white labeled to be delivered as your service to your customer to increase your monthly recurring revenue. As part of our planning and execution, we work with you to do strategic account planning, to work out what opportunities are available with the certain customers to assist you in that space. All of our consultants are highly qualified, industry experts, because we're here to provide that level of assurity to yourselves. So we have, as we are Microsoft Gold partner, we're Gold in multiple streams, including Azure, Intune, Office 365, Exchange, so on and so forth. Around our projects, we are able to provide, we do end-to-end service delivery and project management. Again, in some engagements, you may wish to provide project management yourself. That's fine. We can certainly work with that. So that's who Insentra is. So what are we seeing today in Azure? So this is a bit of a saying that I end up talking a lot with customers about. Cloud is a journey, not a destination. We find that a customer may already have some input into cloud or may just be touching cloud for the first time. So some common things that we see is I have some workloads, virtual machine workloads running on premises today. I might be running out of capacity. I might need to refresh my kit. And so I'm going to look at Azure as an augmentation of my current computing capacity. And in this scenario, we commonly see the dev test workloads to be the first workloads to move across so that they can kick the tires, see that that works. And then potentially over time, would continue to move more virtual machines into Azure using Azure as an IaaS platform. Other common scenarios we're seeing a lot of now is Azure Active Directory. So as most of you will be aware, data has left the firewall. The data, corporate data, is now no longer inside the customer's environment. They're out in these different cloud services. And so Azure Active Directory, particularly the premium offering, provides an opportunity for you to help the customer manage identity. So that what Azure Active Directory becomes is Active Directory for the cloud. So you create your users on AD, on premises like you do today, but with Azure Active Directory, putting them in the right groups, we can then augment that into third-party services. So you might use NetSuite or Salesforce or Box or Dropbox. And through this, we can actually provision the services automatically for the user. And more importantly, from a risk and compliance perspective, when they are disabled in Active Directory, Azure Active Directory can then reach into these cloud services and disable those accounts to keep you compliant in your environment. On top of that, most customers are new to Azure and need assistance. So we find the first few conversations are really around what is the cloud? How is the cloud? What is the best use of cloud for myself? As in, I have these set of problems. How can the cloud help me provide solutions to these problems? Most customers are in the early stages of digital transformation, and at the moment, their view of cloud is moving of workloads, as opposed to transforming into re-architecting the solutions. But what we find is that after the users have, or the customers have moved across to Azure, they now have their services in the cloud. They then start consuming more platform as a service. And the classic one we see here firstly is typically databases. The average SQL server, so running a Windows SQL server on infrastructure as a service, would cost a customer about $400 a month to execute that SQL server. Running that same database with that same availability in the platform as a service would cost the customer $40. They can instantly see the savings, they can instantly see the value. You as their trusted technology advisor need to assist them to transform from infrastructure to platform as a service, another area that we can certainly help you with. So how do you find opportunities to engage the customers? So there's a couple of ways to tackle this. Most companies today will have some sort of cloud roadmap. Every Gartner's been saying for years, all the CIOs know, we've got to go cloud, we've got to go cloud, we've got to go cloud. But what does that mean? Does that mean I'm going to take my services to a public cloud? Does that mean I'm going to run my services on another customer, another environment? What are the constraints? Am I in the financial services? Do I need to keep my data inside the country? What are the things that they're looking to do to be their end state? And then from that, you can then see where they are and then plot a path from A to B. Most conversations should start around identity. It's fantastic to move those workloads up there, but if you can't secure them and you can't have that identity conversation, then you're opening yourselves up to more risk and compliance. So most times when we talk about, you'll find when Insentra talks about moving to Azure, moving to other cloud platforms, Office 365, Intune, we will talk about identity first. How are you securing your identity? And then off that, you could then offer a managed service to manage identity in the cloud for your customer. In the virtual machine workload scenarios, the dev and test workloads are typically the ones that go first. The other scenario we will see is new workloads being built in the cloud. So we have a project, we have our infrastructure running on premises, the business wants to do something new. So we'll do that something new in the cloud. Other ways that we find to get customers into the cloud is to have a conversation about their pain points. So what is the problems you're having today, and to see how we can leverage that leverage a cloud solution to do that. A very common one, I have a backup solution. My backup solution is using a whole lot of disk space. I'd like to use that disk. So most storage to the cloud and have that effectively your virtual tape level. So once you've gone from your disk to go disk to tape, you can now take that and put that in the cloud. You can secure it, you can encrypt it, you can meet all your regulatory compliance, and then you can still audit it and control it going forward. Classic one is the backup. Another scenarios we see is I'm running out of disk space. I need to augment the disk space in my file server, so I need to have some nearline storage, and we can leverage the cloud for that. When talking to customers about Azure, you should talk about it as it's your infinite data center. We are going to plug Azure into your network. We're going to interconnect you, and we're going to give you this infinite data center. So no longer are you constrained by the idea of I can only run so many workloads, so many machines, because my compute infrastructure is only so big. Now we can control and deploy as many workloads as needed, as quickly as needed. Now the converse to this, and a big part of your planning needs to be around the controls for the management of Azure, because you don't want a customer to get sticker shock where somebody logged in and decided to spin up 100 virtual machines and didn't realize, and there's a large amount of costs. So once you've layered the infrastructure, a lot of the consulting and efforts will be involved with the management of the financials. Who has the right to do this? Not can we do it? We can absolutely spin up 1,000 virtual machines. Who in your organization should have that right? And controlling the role-based access control so that that doesn't get out of control. So how can we help you today? Most conversations are going to talk around, we want to move to the cloud. So we offer assessment services to help create a plan for the adoption of Azure. So we would look at the infrastructure and the interrelationships between that infrastructure for the potential to migrate that across to the appropriate cloud service. So if you have an Exchange environment or SharePoint environment, we would obviously look to move that to Office 365. But if you've got running virtual machines, terminal services, Citrix, file services, print services, databases, application tiers, web infrastructure, all of that, we can move up to Azure for the customer. And so we need to understand those dependencies. So we have a methodology in which we go in and we do an assessment of the environment so that we understand exactly what they're running. We assist with the sizing. So in the sizing space, we need to look at what is the current configuration of a virtual machine? Is it correctly sized? So you might have provisioned 4 CPUs and 20 gig of RAM, but the machine may only be using 2 CPUs and 8 gig of RAM. So we would right size that virtual machine as part of this process so that the customer can have a understanding of the costs of what this would look like in Azure. On top of that, conversely, sometimes we find machines that are flatlining. They don't have enough CPU, they don't have enough memory, they're overtaxed. So we would conversely look to make that to a larger virtual machine. Now, Azure uses, for those who haven't seen it, it's a t-shirt size system. So they have different classes of virtual machines and then different sizes within those classes. The classes would talk to things like the sort of Xeon CPU, the sort of premium storage that you can attach to those machines. And also, they also have things like GPU capabilities as well if you need to use GPU type services. And they fit in different tiers, and then within the tiers, it's the number of CPUs and memory that's available. So we would, as part of that report, show you that this machine is going to become a G3. This other machine is going to become a D class, a D3 virtual machine. And you can look at the pricing on Azure. We also assist, and we're doing a lot now of implementation of third-party applications such as XenApp and Zen Desktop in Citrix. That is Citrix in Azure. So a lot of customers now are refreshing their XenApp and Zen Desktop infrastructure. So they would look to deploy that into Azure. And the advantages here, of course, is that you can scale out your implementation. So if you were to acquire a company and you needed to scale up the number of XenApp or Zen Desktop instances, you could literally flick a switch and provision that infrastructure very, very quickly. And conversely, you can shrink that down. And we use all the smarts of Azure to look at workloads and processing, and we're able to dynamically scale the infrastructure so it's available at the right times. So classic scenarios here with XenApp is first thing in the morning, a lot of users log into the system. So 15, 20 minutes before we know that bulk load of users are coming in, we scale up from a couple of servers to a larger pool of servers or desktops to be able to service we know that incoming infrastructure, infrastructure load. We're scaled up, we run, and then scale back down, which is a much more cost-effective method than having enough infrastructure running on premises to meet that peak workload. We also assist in the integration of Azure into your network. Now, there are three scenarios that we see here. Firstly, we see some customers that want to keep Azure isolated as its own environment and don't interconnect the environments. And the other two scenarios are a VPN connection and an express route connection. So VPN, just like all other virtual private networks, is a tunnel that's secured over the internet. And as it's over the internet, it is at the mercy of the internet in the sense of capacity and workload for throughput. Most customers, once they're over a certain size, will go an express route connection. So what is express route? Express route is a private fiber connection in the. This means you get a guaranteed amount of bandwidth and throughput over the size connection that you have into Azure. So it is literally connected to your network through your own fiber connection. All the fiber connections are redundant because we use Australia mostly. There's a connection into Sydney, a connection to Melbourne, redundant fiber connections. You can increase and decrease the amount of express route sizing of the circuits that you need. And we can assist you to work with that sizing as well as the implementation of that networking. Now, there are two sorts of express route providers, a internet provider and a network provider, or an IXP and an NXP. An IXP is someone that uses you connect to their services and then they connect you across. So think of Equinix, those sorts of network providers. They have a service you connect there. So in that scenario, you may have a data center hosted at a third-party provider, and then off that data center, you'd connect Azure. The other sort of provider is a network provider. So think an Optus or a Telstra. So an MPLS type scenario where Azure becomes a node on your network inside your MPLS cloud. Both have pluses and minuses. We work through that with you. We also have a large experience in Microsoft Solutions, Office 365, Intune, Windows 10, Enterprise Mobility and Security. We have moved thousands of seats to Office 365 around the globe. We are deploying Intune every day. For those who don't know, Intune is Microsoft's mobile device management solution for managing devices such as mobile phones, tablets, Windows and Mac devices. Think of it as config manager in the cloud. Of course, Windows 10 is now Windows as a service. We work a lot with customers to assist them in deployment of Windows 10 and the management of Windows 10. And it's another opportunity for you now is that as Windows as a service, every 6 months, there's a new version of Windows. The images need to be updated and refreshed. So there's another opportunity to be involved with your customers as opposed to the every 3 or 5 years that used to occur. We rolled out Windows 7, we walked away for 5 years, we came back, we rolled out Windows 8. We went away for 5 years, we came back, we helped them with Windows 10. Now it's every 6 months there's a new version. So you can offer that as a service and assist there. And lastly, we've also mentioned enterprise mobility and security. So enterprise mobility and security is a suite of Microsoft services that leverages Azure on the back end. So it is a bundling of Active Directory Premium, Microsoft Intune, Microsoft Cloud App Security, and Active Directory Rights Management software, which they today call Azure Information Protection, or AIP. So this is an area that there's a lot of growth in this space. So there's a lot of opportunities for your customers. So if your customer already has Office 365, you could start a conversation around how are you securing your data on your mobile devices? What happens when someone leaves the organization? How do you remove the data from their environment? How do you protect that data? You may have corporate sensitive corporate information or credit cards or other personally identifiable information. How do you secure that data? And the other part to enterprise mobility security is a product called Cloud App Security. And Cloud App Security is designed to help with shadow IT. So it's fantastic that the IT department that you're working with says, we only use Dropbox for our file sharing. But how do you know that they're not using Box and other solutions? And this is where Cloud App Security comes in, because what it does is you take the logs from your exit point of your network, you upload them to the cloud, and then Cloud App Security does an assessment and says, the people in the finance department happen to be using Dropbox or happen to be using OneDrive. And then you can see what's in use, and then you can work through Azure Information Protection to encrypt that data so it's secure out there and bring control back in. It's another great offering that you can take to your customers. So next steps. What I'd really like to do now is see if there are any questions from yourselves and find out how we can engage you. As I said before, the way to, if you have any opportunity going forward after this webinar, please contact your Dicker Data rep and they will get in contact with us and we will be able to assist you. So, questions and answers. Matt, can we open up the panel to some questions, please?
Michael, looks like you were very thorough. We don't have any questions at this stage, so I'd encourage I'd encourage the partners online to feel free to ask questions at this time. We've got a couple of minutes, so feel free to
also throw that up on the screen. For those that don't know, Azure Essentials, Microsoft.com/ENAU/Azure Essentials. You should be able to see that on your screen. This is a place, if you don't know much about Azure, this is a website set up by Microsoft. As you can see, you can sign in with LinkedIn or your Microsoft account, and it gives you a bunch of videos and training materials and the ability to set up environments to watch, learn, and try with Azure. So for those that don't have any experience and want to actually kick the tires, this is a great place to start. Well, no questions. I either did a really good job or a really bad job. Let's go with good job.
Yeah, it was a good job, Michael. It means you were very thorough.
Yep.
We'll leave it open for another minute or two in case anybody comes up with a question. If not, as Michael mentioned, feel free to reach out to your Dicker Data representative. We're here to help you along your journey to the cloud.
Okay, my email address is on the bottom. If you want to reach out, you can also find me on LinkedIn and all the usual social media locations. Feel free to, if you ever have even just have a simple question, you want to ask a question, how would I do this? Feel free to reach out.
Great, thank you again, Michael. We really appreciate your time. And guys, of course, feel free to reach out to us. And we want to thank Michael and the guys at Insentra as our valued services partner for Azure. So thanks again, Michael, and thanks everybody who attended. Feel free to send through your questions after the session today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Great, I think that about wraps it up. So thanks everybody. We'll talk to you again on the next Azure webinar.
Thank you all for attending. Appreciate your time.